Hello everyone and welcome to Movie Review UK. My name's MJ and today I'm going to be reviewing Spider-Man Homecoming. I saw it yesterday, which was the release day in the United Kingdom, the 5th of July, and I have been hugely anticipating this film for ages, really since it was announced, and certainly since the partnership with the MCU was announced between Sony and the MCU. Fantastic, and of course seeing Tom Holland play Spider-Man in Civil War was a nice little teaser and like a brief introduction to the character, and so it's been very intriguing to see how he develops in his own movie and just what the plot and everything like that will be. I'm the kind of person who avoids trailers, so I saw literally a tiny snippet of him jumping off a building or whatever, and so yeah, I was hugely excited. The film absolutely delivered. I think that it's certainly the best Spider-Man film, I would say, by far. I know that a lot of people hold Spider-Man 2 in a very high regard, and actually I do often wonder how much nostalgia plays a part in that. It's a film from, what, 14 years ago now? 2004 I think it came out, so 13 years ago as I filmed this. And yeah, you've got to look at the whole thing. I mean, how good a Spider-Man was Tobey Maguire? Look at the choreography, all this kind of thing, and just the overall style of it. For me, it didn't really meet the comic and my expectations in that regard. When I look at it now, it is crucial to say that actually there's certainly a lot of truth in saying that with every Spider-Man film that's come out, I've enjoyed them to a certain extent. Certainly the first couple, absolutely adored them when they came out, but then if you look to the more recent ones, as my age has grown and I've developed as a person, I mean, most recently looking at the Amazing Spider-Man 2, obviously recognised most of that as being total garbage, which it certainly was. I actually quite liked Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, and I actually quite liked Dane DeHaan as Harry Osborn, but when you compare them to Tom Holland, they just pale in comparison, because Tom Holland absolutely smashes the role. He is the perfect Spider-Man. He's young, funny, quippy, and certainly in Spider-Man Homecoming, this is a Spider-Man in training, and that's really great. And a lot of that actually adds to the humour. The way that they've embedded it into the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, I think is incredible. It's got some, I won't go into spoilers in this review, but as you would have seen from Civil War, Spider-Man made his suit, Iron Man made his suit, and so that plays a big part in this movie as well, and there's a huge amount of kind of technology in it as well that is explored, and that's really cool, and it is a different approach to Spider-Man, one that we've not really seen before. The villain or villains are fantastic, played by Michael Keaton. Really, really solid. It's great to get such a tremendous actor, and certainly an actor who has, I suppose, since Birdman or just in the last few years, he's really kind of come back into the limelight, and it's great to get someone who is an older gentleman and such a great actor with a huge amount of history behind him. It's great to get him playing such a great villain with some really good reasons, and the way that they tie in the villains and the overall story, both kind of the superhero side of it and the more mundane school / teenage life side of it, they meld it into one. That's the melting pot. I've done that before on this channel, sorry, Office references. The way they do that is brilliant, and it works so well. The choreography is brilliant. What I really wanted to see was a nimble Spider-Man, kind of lots of flexibility and very imaginative and dynamic action, and that's certainly what you get with this film. And one thing that I was hoping for, which did happen, was like a moment that just that gives you shivers. I mean, shivers is always kind of, I suppose, the ultimate goal in films. Looking at one of the moments that I was talking about recently with some friends that made me shiver the most would be something like Caesar finally talking in the recent Planet of the Apes film. And when I say the recent one, I mean the first remake. Or not the first remake, because you had the Tim Burton remake, but the recent remake of the first one of this new trilogy. Anyway, that moment was super shivery, and this new Spider-Man film has its shivery moments. Certainly one, there's an argument for that a couple are in there. There's some really interesting and excellent key plot happenings in this film. I don't want to say too much in that regard, but in terms of the story, it's really, really well done and really well executed. And I love the overall design and the colourfulness, which I think was really important for this. There's some great relationships, there's some excellent characters, and it treads the line so well between being such a fun and bouncy, vivid, bright film that certainly belongs in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with some darker elements, like obviously the villain has got dark notes to him, and that's great. And they balance that well just with the overall tone of the film and the humour, and just the whole package is done so well. I'd really want to see the creative team return for the sequel, and I'm really excited to see how Spider-Man will fit into the larger Marvel universe, particularly after how this movie ends. Absolutely fantastic, loved it. I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this edition of Movie Review UK. If you're hanging with us for the first time ever, please give us a subscribe, and have a nice day, probably, is something else that people say. Cheers. Bye.